Steep Hill and the Straight, one of the character areas of Lincoln. It lies on the upper slopes of the city's north escarpment, just below the site of the old south gate of the Roman upper city. In the north, it narrows almost to a point, spreading down southwards from there in a widening fan. The area's spine, running roughly north to south, is Steep Hill, which becomes at its lower end the Straight. This important artery, together with some of the streets and alleyways leading off it, makes up the area we're looking at here. To the immediate north of this area lies what was in Roman times the south gate of the upper city, through which passed the Roman road, Ermine Street. Steep Hill and the Straight broadly continue the line of that Roman road. It's a route which since Roman times has been the most direct connection between the upper city and the low-lying land of the lower city, leading down to the River Witham and the Brayford Pool. By the high medieval period, there were several specialised markets here. A drapery market in St Martin's Street, corn and poultry markets on Steep Hill, and a fish market on the west of Steep Hill. Danes Terrace was called in the 19th century Bull Ring Terrace. Over centuries of use, market stalls and booths became permanent buildings, and the rough alleyways in which they were ranged became proper streets, such as Danesgate and Michaelgate. At the point where Steep Hill becomes the Straight, the building often called the Jew's House has stood since 1170. It's not clear whether the ground floor originally had shops, as it does today, but the upper floors were always for living in. The stone house beside it, Jew's Court, is just as ancient, although its appearance has been more altered over time, especially during the 17th and 18th centuries. By the 1920s, it had sunk to a sorry state. It was only strong local opposition which saved it from demolition. At the extreme north of the area is Norman House, also dating from the 12th century. It preserves more of its medieval character, thanks partly to restoration. In comparison to other buildings in the area, both the Jew's House and the Norman House show their great age more clearly. The massive stone construction, with remnants of impressive decoration and large round-arched Romanesque windows. Once the direction of the roads had been established, building continued on and off for a very long time. The Harlequin, also at the northern end of the area, is a two-storey timber building with one jetty to the north and two to the east, where the sloping ground gives an extra floor. This is work of the late 15th century, when timber framing was a popular method of construction in the city. The jettied first floor of buildings often indicates an internal timber frame construction, as seen in other properties in the area. Several have had their timbers concealed by later surfaces. At the bottom of the Straight, the ground begins to flatten out. Here too we find medieval survivals, and if you look back down the length of the street, with its complete run of traditional York stone and red granite sets, you can see how the character of buildings along the street vary, evidence of centuries of building and rebuilding on a plot-by-plot basis. Many buildings have been rebuilt several times, as properties in the area changed between residential and commercial use. Number 19 Steep Hill has a shop front which clearly straddles two original buildings. Most of the buildings along the west side of the street date from much later than the High Middle Ages. At least, that is what their facades say. But the properties, many of which have survived multiple rebuildings, still follow a medieval building line. Properties are closely set, and the street is very narrow, especially at the southern end. The slope may be gentler here, but still there is a stepped effect, making buildings reveal their gable ends. Here we have almost entirely retail premises, whose facades date from every century from the 15th to the late 20th. There are some common factors. Buildings are almost entirely of 2 or 3 stories, with narrow 2-bay frontages. Building materials, whether brick or less frequently stone, are small in scale. Roofs are in general quite steeply pitched. Projecting first-floor windows are common, since with buildings which are built right up to the footway, the only way to extend is at first-floor level and above. The length of this sinuous sloping route from top to bottom of the area is punctuated by several terraced streets running off. At these junctions, the enclosed feeling of the street opens up to a wider expanse. In some cases, these more open spaces are marked by important buildings to terminate the view. From Danes Terrace, or from Christ's Hospital Terrace. There are several more coherent stretches of buildings in the area, often in the side roads, which are almost entirely residential in character, but also along Steep Hill itself. Such developments are usually small and simply decorated terraced houses, dating to the late Victorian or Edwardian periods, but there are modern examples as well. The houses are often built in one single development, using the same materials. The regularity of their design contrasts with the varied character of the buildings we saw earlier. In more elevated parts of the Chracter area, that often command wide views from the escarpment, the houses can be large and high status, with large gardens. This video is one of a series exploring the sense of place of the many distinctive areas of the City of Lincoln. Explore the Heritage Connect website to find out more about this or other areas of the city. As well as many videos, you'll find a huge amount of further information there. But best of all, wherever you are, keep your eyes open for more clues to the city's fascinating history.